The temporary suspension of Statutory Instrument 122 of 2017 has caused a stir, sparking debate and stoking anxieties. Does it spell doom and gloom for local brands and manufacturers and a bonanza for cross-border traders? Find out on this edition of the Business Agenda. This is the Business Agenda, and as I stated a short while ago, tonight we are focusing on this very topical issue, the lifting of the import ban, and we'll be trying to analyze its impact on local businesses, but also is there capacity to be able to bring in the products that are currently in short supply. To help me unpack this discussion, I'm joined by the President of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries, Mr. Sifelani Jabangwe, alongside Vandudzai Zirebwa. She's the Chief Economist for Buy Zimbabwe. Lady and gentlemen, a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Farai. Thank you for having us.
Let me begin with you, Vandudzai, and ask you this. Buy Zimbabwe, what's your take on what we've just seen announced by government?
Thank you very much. The suspension or the amendment of SI of 2017 to us, it came with a lot of concern because we believe that it was obviously not a long-term strategy, but we thought it was critical for our local companies in the space that we are in. However, we understand maybe the stance that the government has taken because obviously there are known challenges that we are facing as a country, as an economy, in terms of shortages, in terms of other deficiencies that we think existed within the SIs.
Is it the answer, Mr. Jabangwe?
I clearly do not think so. Because as you called it an import ban, it was never a ban. Mm-hmm. It was an import management system, which said if there were ever any gaps, licenses will be issued to allow those with free funds to import. So we believe that that is the route that we should have gone if we felt that it was necessary to close any gaps of supply. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. And when you look at the history of supply, we as local companies up to September have been able to supply all that is required. And this was because there was currency being allocated. And this year we were not even getting adequate allocations of currency throughout the whole year. And the government assured us that we would be able to get some forex. And a lot of our members, which are the manufacturers, actually got loans. They got they were extended credit in order to keep supplying. And up to now, some owe as much as 50 million, to suppliers. And throughout pre and post elections, we make sure that product was there. In September, when currency ran out in the economy, we understand why it ran out. It's because the tobacco auction flows it closed. That's why we then saw disturbances in supplies. And we had hoped and we had spoken to government to say, during that last quarter, it will be important that you get an injection to smoothen out that period, because this last quarter has got very interesting sort of characteristics. This is when the tobacco auction flows close, the currency is least. But these 2-3 months before Christmas, this is when the country actually has a peak in terms of demand for currency, because the requirements will be for general requirements that will always be wanting. Then there will be need to fund the summer cropping season. Then also companies will be stocking up for the festive season sales. So the peak comes in when a traffic is coming in. So there's a need to put an injection through, and this is what companies would have used to do that. So unfortunately, government then thought companies were withholding product. We would not withhold
You're product. In business to make money.
In business to make money. So, and we also, as you said, we've got creditors to pay and so forth. So this action is actually, after we had gotten all this, is actually basically throwing us under the bus, because we made sure product will be available up to this period.
So right now? What now, Vandudzai? What happens to local brands?
You know, our understanding was that the government would expedite the local content policy, which was a tool to cover up even from the SI 64 that started and SI 122. The process was going to be okay if it had been a swift process from SI and from SI 122 to local content policy, but there was no communication. Maybe you were consulted. There were no consultations with several stakeholders, including the consumers that the government is looking after for. But as it stands, local companies, there are certain things that we need to adjust as local companies to survive, because unfortunately the amendment was done and it is here. So there are strategies that we need to come together as local stakeholders, as manufacturers, as consumers, as the government, to charter a way forward, because it's not about the openness of the shop spaces. It's also about jobs. It's also about disposable income. I tell you, Farai, from now, if the situation is as it is right now, you see obviously companies retrenching.
Is that a reality? Is that a route that some of your members would perhaps take?
That is indeed a reality, because you see, when the currency was not being given, companies were closing or reopening, closing, but they kept their employees. But now with this change, people are now thinking, we now have to cut our costs. Already we've got companies, we may have companies starting to retrench as many as a minimum of at least 100. Things that has already started, because now people are concerned, what if I keep these employees and goods coming, I am finished. So they are already starting to cut their costs and holding on. But as business, we believe that for the economy, this is not the appropriate action. This is not the appropriate action, because it will do a lot of harm to the economy. These retrenchments are only a start of the challenges that will happen.
What else are we likely to see? Okay.
Maybe to come through is, I think, as industry or as captains of industry, what we need to do, as I've put across previously, is that let's rally behind the local content policy as of today, because we have created a gap. The gap that we have created is that we have actually suspended some of the products, and most of those products are linked to the primary industries that we have, especially agriculture. So they have got a bearing on agriculture. So if we expedite the enactment of the local content policy as an exit plan, I think maybe it can ease some of the challenges that we are foreseeing in the future.
Let me ask you this very quickly, Vandudzai, for purposes of clarity and for listeners who may be hearing this term for the very first time. What do you mean when you say local content policy?
Basically, it is incentivizing the local companies that uses the local factors of production, and disincentivizing those that continue to import products, finished products. So we are just saying that if we increase our local content utilization requirement in our production, then there should be incentives to ensure that there is improved industrialization following the use of local factors of production.
The biggest incentive for business, I would imagine, is profit. And as I understand it, there's a lot of profit to be made by people who import goods, mark them up, and sell them here. So how will you incentivize people to buy local, to procure locally, when there is an appetite? There are people who are benefiting from a scenario and a status where they are able to go and import things, finished products, bring them here, land them here, sell them, and make lots of money.
Yeah, look, it's a process that is a little bit more difficult, because it's now incentivizing, encouraging, and as I said, the biggest issue for us, or the biggest challenge, is that this was one policy which was working for this country. This is one policy that was actually growing this economy. You know, we had challenges of FDI. And because of the statutory, this SI 122, SI 64, some of the traders that were bringing products into Zimbabwe realized that Zimbabwe is a good market, and they moved into this market. They invested, invested 20 million, with some 30, some 70 million, in the last 3 years. And this is the highest amount of investment that we have gotten from local and also foreign investors. In the last 3 years, have been very good. So now that they've put this equipment on the ground, we've changed the policy. And unfortunately, some of these are multinationals. So in terms of policy consistency, we're in trouble. They went and also got money from international financial institutions. So they're saying, hang on, Zimbabwe, here you go again. And, you know, so they now see challenges in terms of recouping the investments that they've made. So should they have put 30 million into the ground? No. But now, what happens?
Maybe to add on to what Mr. President is saying, we as by Zimbabwe in CZI, we had our survey just to understand the impact of the suspension of the SI. And to be honest, the notable benefits that local companies were sending in to say that we have increased our employment from 15% to 70, as far as 70 or 200%. Capacity utilization was improved. And so we foresee the huge negative impact on the suspension of the SI for now.
Is this not, are you not perhaps being, you know, often people say we become purveyors of negativity, that, you know, we are prophesying doom, the fact that, you know, we're expecting now that people will lose jobs, that this is a complete disaster. Are we not overreacting here?
Maybe if I can respond, it's not an overreaction, because you can, these jobs were only acquired since the SI-64 was put in place. So if something started because you put something in place, when you take it away, those jobs will go, because what you have is the suppliers of these particular products were also, I would say, look, as I was saying earlier on before the program started, currently the employment is about 800,000. This is the highest that in terms of formal employment that this economy has had since 1968. 100,000 of those jobs are from manufacturing. Now, manufacturing jobs create other jobs. They create between 3 to 10 jobs. So so about another 400,000 are due to the 100,000 jobs. The reason being, for each company has got suppliers, and then when you've got suppliers, so they've got direct jobs, what are called direct jobs, which are those jobs that are in the sector itself. Then you've got indirect jobs, which are those jobs that are with your suppliers. And then when these groups with the indirect and indirect, when they go and spend the salaries, they create other jobs in the companies where they consume the goods, whether they buy furniture, they buy clothing, they buy what. They are creating jobs in the clothing sector. And also when you go and get a haircut, you create jobs for the barber. So you kill these jobs, then you're also killing another 400,000. So this is why this is called the multiplier effect of manufacturing. So and one of the things as well is the linkage to the agricultural sector, because our agro processors were now producing. We had started doing potato crisps, baked beans, and your milk. And peanut butter, and soy and cooking oil. They then had created opportunities for our farmers to then farm for industry. So you take away that industry's ability to supply this product. You're killing that whole chain right up to the farmer. Because that's why the success in our farming sector had been limited prior to the cessation of industry, because a significant number of farmers in any country will farm for factories, because agro-produce is perishable. If you don't convert it to a non-perishable state where the shelf life is longer, it rots. So you farm it, you convert it, sell it.
Vandudzai, let me ask you this, and again coming back to this point where I'm saying, look, perhaps we are overplaying this, perhaps. Are there people out there who actually have the kind of money that is required, or the funds to go out there to bring in goods, put a markup on them, and be able to sell them at a price that will push out our local brands?
Maybe just for background's sake, the reason why this SI was suspended is really to say there is a gap. That was the analysis, and that was why other institutions were pushing that there is a gap in the market, to say that how do we ensure that we plug in the gap that is existing now. So if there are free funds, maybe from retailers or other people that are in business who have got free funds and go and import to plug in the gap, I am yet to see if those products are going to be coming here on a fee that is lower than the manufacturing fee with markup for local products.
Unlikely, because they are also having to go, I mean, if they do have free funds, or if they are wanting to, sell them in dollars to be able to, restock, if they are going into the parallel market will be the same for any, whether you're a company or an individual. So.
Yeah, it could be an opportunity, like I said in the beginning, but let's also concentrate as we go on with our discussion. I know Mr. President may not like this, but the honest truth is we also have got a consumer, and the government is looking at the nation and saying that there are manufacturers there are the consumers, there are the retailers who are the middlemen who we do not really know, because from the constituents that we also come from, they say that manufacturing, I stand to be corrected by Mr. President, that manufacturing, they're saying that this is our production cost, and this is the markup to the retailers. And when we are at retailing, this is the cost also. And when it is now a selling price to the consumer, probably it's from the channel, from the beginning to the end, maybe there are some price discrepancies, while the products are now being too expensive. That is a debate for another day. But we also, in this whole discourse, let's also look at the consumer and see how, in the interim, hopefully this suspension is for the interim, maybe even 1 month or less, just to say that.
Which might also be a bad thing, because it's even more consistency, because you're putting in something for a month.
But maybe to say, Farai, because this is how they presented it. They say that there is a gap, and we are just hoping, really, so that we do not kill our industry. Because from 2016, as Mr. President was saying about the statistics, obviously there has been growth, industrial growth or manufacturing-based growth, and multiply even to our packaging and even contract farming from other sectors. So we were hoping that we would continue on that growth trajectory, even as we are building towards the Vision 2030.
Mr. Jabangwe, let me ask you this. Are you concerned? Are you worried that you weren't consulted? And then that points me to the next question, that are the authorities even listening to this?
Well, look, there were some meetings that were held, which we can call them consultations, and we did highlight that if you take away this particular measure, unfortunately, you're going to kill, as you said, this measure has only been in place for 3 years. But the impact has been phenomenal. As I said, we're going to be probably the best performing economy in SADC this year. And so we believe that it should have been kept. For the consumer, like we said, it was never a ban. It was always open that if there is a gap and government feels that they need to issue licenses, they could issue licenses, which could have been done. But the worry is that now we've actually gone and amended the SI, which makes it even more difficult, even if you want to turn it back. So there was already a mechanism to do that. And going back to your earlier question, that will they be cheaper? Unfortunately, we don't think that they will be cheaper. What it's going to do is going to be very inflationary, because the local companies, the reason why they had not increased their prices, to maybe increase production, is that they had to wait for allocations from government, particularly those producing the basic commodities. And had there been had they been allowed to increase prices, they would have done so, because they would have traced the market and made sure the product is there. So now if it's open to say, look, bring product in and this product will price it at a higher price, even they have got no motive to stay at the lower price. The prices are going to go up, which is why we're saying this move is not very good at all for the economy. It's going to be inflationary. It's then going to have the prices of products will be available, but at a higher price. Local product, we know it will be cheaper than the imported because of the differential of the exchange rate, but it will no longer be what it is at now. Bread will no longer be $1. Your other products will no longer be what they have been, which is what we have been able to do to all those prices over the last 4 years at the same level that they've been. But now there's going to be a huge jump, and unfortunately the consumer is going to be worse off. And on the other side, we also say the consumer is the employee. So the consumer and the industry are totally not not divorced. They are one, and that's why we believe that, in as much as we see that yes, there was a gap, but we believe, as we highlighted, the gap was a result of currency. That's where the problem is. So we should have said, how do we address this issue of currency? The free funds, if we thought that, then we should have done licenses. So right now, yeah, that's where our concern is, in that there is going to be certainly going to be an increase in prices, the price levels.
The horses have already bolted. This thing is already happening. Is there a way to salvage the situation? Can it be rectified? You've mentioned or alluded to local content policy. Is that enough? And I'll put this to both of you, starting with you, Vandudzai.
Maybe what we can say, or what we are saying as by Zimbabwe, is we will not, or we are not surrendering our markets to foreign products. We need to compete, and we understand that we have got other sectors. I could mention that they are now ready even for imports because of this SI that was instituted in 2016. That window period gave them also opportunity to establish themselves in the market. So they are also saying that maybe we are prepared for the foreign products. But is it enough for the whole whole sector? Certainly, Mr. President, it could not be enough. But so some companies who prevail in this environment, because as I indicated from the onset, that the SI was never meant to be an indefinite policy, but our concern really is on maybe the method. I thought it was critical maybe to be given a window period, or a notice period rather, to say that by this so and so we are going to alleviate the SI, and companies were prepared. So some will obviously thrive, some unfortunately it will not be good for them.
Mr. Jabangwe, Vandudzai saying we are not going to surrender our shelf spaces by Zimbabwe. What is the strategy for CZI?
Yeah, look, like we were saying, the local content is a moral suasion approach. And the challenge is that also some of the retailers that we have are of South African origin. They will favor product from South Africa. Unfortunately, that's a reality. And though we had said that these measures were never going to be forever, but what we know is the ease of doing business and our ratings of competitiveness, they are nowhere close to where it should be for us to be competitive. No matter how you improve as a corporate, it will be very difficult for you to compete. For you to compete if the environment itself is still rated as low as what Zimbabwe is. So those are the challenges. But as I say, one of the things though, what we know is, because actually this exchange rate that we've got, we are going to be a bit more competitive. But as Zimbabwe, what we need we is Vision 2030 is going to be driven by industrialization and jobs. So this was a tool to actually, one of the tools that we should have retained to help us as far as we could take it to keep creating jobs. By taking it away, we could be kissing Vision 2030 goodbye, kissing jobs goodbye. It was industrialization. I mean, I was in South Korea last week. They did exactly what we were doing with SI 122. That's what they did. They said we are not going to import all luxuries. They're going to be manufactured locally. And slowly they started off with they were initially an agricultural-based economy, agro-based economy, and their per capita earnings were about $100. Then they moved into lighting, manufacturing, wigs and toys. That moved the per capita earnings to about maybe 500. Then they moved to heavy industry, automotive and chemical industry. That moved their per capita earnings to around 5,000 to 10,000, where they are now. And so it's a clear path that shows what you need to do. So if we remain agro-based, we're not going to be a rich economy. That's why we're saying 2030 is industrialization. You have to do it, and you have to do it selfishly. But if you open up, you're going to industrialize other economies. Some of the benefits that SI 64, SI 122 helped the economy to achieve. 2015, our imports were about 7.4 billion. After implementation of SI 64, they dropped to about 5 per year, which is around where they are. So we've been saving 2 billion US annually. And this is what, we could surrender. And if we start losing 2 billion per year, we're not going to be richer because one of our problems was the trade deficit.
Sure.
So that's where
maybe also one other thing that we can concentrate on is to identify value chains. Maybe we can put it across like the dairy sector. The dairy sector before SI and now, you can actually track and you have got a trail of the benefits and how. I think that can also cascade to other sectors, and we duplicate the same model in the dairy sector, because now we never had pasteurized milk, but we now have got pasteurized milk, and the dairy sector has got the examples of specifics that we need to achieve as an economy.
And even more, players came into each of the sectors. People think we were supporting the old companies, but what happened is when the SI was put in place, each sector that was where the SI was put in place, new players came in. We actually had new players, and the developments and investments in those areas have been phenomenal. So for us, we believe we had a working model which we needed to keep extending to other sectors.
And so those players came in, were stronger, were performing and doing well. Surely they shouldn't require protection anymore, should they?
The macro environment is such that I think we are within the bottom 20 in the ease and cost of doing business, whereas you're competing with countries where they are in the top 50 in the ease and cost of doing business. Already your macro environment is already affecting you and making you uncompetitive. But the real issue is this. In terms of economic complexity, we're extremely low. So we achieve 20% economic complexity, then we start to celebrate and say, no, let's now remove all these tools. We haven't even created jobs for all these students that are coming from the 15 universities and so forth. What we need to do is, we now need to stop all this, like with the studio equipment that you have here. We need to move to a stage where we are manufacturing that. We've got what we call a Zimbabwean television, which we can sell to other economies. We've got what we call a Zimbabwe, at least we've got a cell phone. We need to promote those guys. So this is where we need to go. Because look at, some of the things that we ignore are so simple. Look at our other neighboring countries, which are not as industrialized as we are. They are poorer than we are. And those countries that are more industrialized than us are richer than we are.
It's a no-brainer. We must end the discussion here, but only because we're out of time. It's been so engaging. Thank you so much, Vandudzai, for coming through. Thank you so much, Sifelani, for coming through. That does it for this business agenda, focusing on this very topical issue. I certainly hope that you enjoyed it and found some value and insights out of it. We'll continue touching on some of the most topical and current developments in this very fluid and fast-paced environment as we see developments happening in this economy. The business agenda is here to shape the way forward in terms of achieving that Vision 2030 that's been alluded to here, and that is in terms of taking our great nation Zimbabwe forward. My name is Farai Mwakutuya. Pleasure to have you joining us. Be sure to join us again next time.